We are back, everyone, and it's so exciting. We have with us again Celinda Lake, a top Democratic political strategist and the president of Lake Research Partners, a major public opinion research firm. The last time that we spoke with her was over the summer during our Grab Trump by the Ballot campaign. So welcome, Celinda. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of your time to talk to us a little bit about, this postmortem, what has happened. But let's take a minute now to just really enjoy, exhale and enjoy and recognize this huge success that so many people on this call worked towards. It's just so wonderful. It's so wonderful to think that about the future of our country and decency and integrity and people who will read their briefs. So
and our vice president-elect as well, which is pretty exciting.
It's historic and so very exciting. So I'm so glad that that's the circumstance that we can be together again after.
Well, I think you would have had to call me in a foreign country where I was illegally residing.
Exactly. So, it was the election day and the following days. Boy, that was a little nerve-wracking. I would love to just hear from you to begin with, just a little overview of what went down in this election. Clearly, it was a little different with all the mail-in. What happened at the polls and at the mailboxes, and where did we end up? And then I have a few more questions, and I know you don't have a lot of time, but I'd love to get to.
Sure. So what we found, it was very nerve-wracking, right? Even if we were on the Biden campaign, even if you were on the Biden campaign, even though we knew that we wouldn't pull ahead until Wednesday morning, because Biden had, rightly so, the Biden campaign had told their voters to vote early and safely, and the Trump campaign had told their voters to vote late and in person. And in a lot of states, not every state, but in a lot of states, the mail ballots are counted after the election day ballots. So we knew there was going to be a drag, but it was unnerving for sure. One of the things that happened, one pattern that happened, was that women delivered the victory. And in every group of voters, women voted more for Joe Biden than men did. And women of color in particular really delivered both the primary success and the general election success. And that is quite exciting. Joe Biden also broadened the coalition. He brought in the oldest voters. He won senior women, and the youngest voters. He did very well with millennial and Gen X voters. That was a broader coalition. He broadened the geography. He brought new states into the Democratic coalition, Arizona and Georgia, as well as bringing back the Midwest. So it was a much broader geography. And he did very well in the suburbs. And the suburbs, of course, it was women, and the suburbs have become much more diverse. And that's one of the reasons why he won the suburbs. So lots of good things happening. The races were also close, and there were, disappointing Senate results and disappointing House results. But one of the things that happened there was, if you look underneath, the Senate seats, with one exception that we lost, and the House seats, most of them that we lost were seats that Trump carried, or states that he carried in 2020 and 2016. So these were pretty Republican areas we were trying to hold on to. And obviously we wish we would have picked up a few more, but not completely unpredictable.
So what exactly happened with women? And I know that you have the exit polls to look at, and I don't know if it's more difficult to get a more accurate picture when you don't have as many people at the polls, or more of Trump support at the polls.
Yeah, the exits are pretty much a mess, but it's not because it's harder to get a more accurate poll. There are lots of techniques that have been developed to compensate for that. But it does look like white women went for Trump, but less than they did in 2016. It looks like we won solidly college-educated women. they had been a lead for Hillary for a long time and then pulled back at the very end. We lost white non-college women, but did better than Hillary did. We won suburban women. Now, the suburban women were also moving in Biden's direction, and the suburbs are more diverse. We won very solidly women of color, but among voters of color, we did less well than Hillary had done. But we still won solidly Asian American Pacific Islander women, Native American women, Latinas, and African American women. And we saw record high turnout on both sides of the aisle.
Was that something that was surprising about the Latino vote?
The Latino vote is
Then-
very, and so first of all, it's such a mistake to even talk about the Latino vote because it's many votes, and we've known that for decades. We knew there was problems in Florida. We knew that, and we did the best, or one of the best, in Arizona. We also did well in the Biden campaign targeted Latino voters in Pennsylvania, Latino voters in North Carolina. They really recognize that the Latino vote is very, very broad and fast growing. They targeted the Latino vote in Georgia. So it was a mixed story on election day. It does look like two things helped Trump with some Latino voters. One was running the socialist message to Central Americans, and two, the economic message. Trump on election day was rated ahead of Joe Biden on the economy. Joe Biden was rated ahead on leadership and COVID. And that economic credibility helped, particularly with Latino men, actually more than women, and did help in that entrepreneurship. Getting the economy going was a strong issue for Latino voters. So I think we learned, as if we didn't already know this, or should have known it, how complicated and multi-layered and non-monolithic the Latino vote is. I think there was some distortion in the perception of it. I mean, Miami-Dade represents 3% of the entire Latino community. Obviously, we had some real problems in Miami-Dade. That said, if Phoenix had come in first instead of Miami-Dade, we'd be thinking about this in an entirely different way because we did really, really well with Latinos in Phoenix. So it's a little bit distorting the way the results came in. Just as we talked about the fact that it seemed closer than it actually was. It's 306 electoral votes now because of the way the votes came in later for Biden because they were vote by mail votes.
But still, they were very close. Him winning in those states was still
some states, some states were very close, and some states obviously did better. I mean, record high support in Colorado, for example, record, strong wins in a lot of places, and then narrow wins in other places.
And do you think that is one of the big lessons moving forward, thinking about the future, and thinking more about the Latino population and how better to understand and serve it?
Well, I think there are a lot of things to think about in terms of the Latino population. First of all, one, not all Latinos, it's not a monolithic community, and we knew that already, but now we really know it. Two, we need to be culturally competent in our Latino advertising. And there are a lot of consultants, and Josh Ulibarri, who is a partner in my firm, has been saying this for a long time. We have a gender gap in the Latino community. We do better with Latinas than we do with Latino men, and we need to be aware of that and pay more attention to that. So there were a lot, and we have to have an economic message. And I think the number one lesson in terms of something that we still need to do is and Joe Biden knew this. He ran a ton of economic spots, but we need to be ahead on the economy. And even on election day, Democrats were behind Republicans and Joe Biden was behind Donald Trump on who's better on the economy. And we won because of COVID and leadership, but we have to be more competitive on the economy.
I think one of the things that I've learned in some of the post coverage is I think it was easy for a lot of us to write off Trump supporters in simplistic ways, or to easily say, well, it's just they're a little racist or a little
Mhm.
Mr. And in learning just how much disinformation is out there, or that we're living in alternate universes of information, that you have Republicans who literally the messaging and the storylines that they were getting in their feeds highlighted all of the positive things that Trump had done for the African American community. And there were some things. And so they were able to say about him that he's actually a positive force for the African American community. So this whole issue of disinformation is a difficult one to think about how to handle for the future.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that, I mean, and we were really hampered this year because of COVID. In some ways, the Trump organization had earlier door to door and community organizing than we did because of COVID. And we, did that fast. And I think Jennifer O'Malley Dillon, the manager of the Biden campaign, was absolutely brilliant in juggling really, really strong field with the demands of COVID. And she did a brilliant job of it under a lot of pressure. But it was distorting for us as grassroots organizers and as Democrats. But I think, and it's quite ironic because she's been attacked for it, but she was absolutely right. AOC said one of the lessons of this campaign is we have to get better on social media. And she was attacked immediately for that. That's something from the left. And it's like, no. In fact, the best person on social media right now is Donald Trump and the right wingers. This is not ideological. This is a pragmatic tool, and we absolutely have to get better at it. And I think the Biden campaign really did a good job, and they were starting from behind and really ramped up, and by the end were very competitive on the disinformation, did more on social media, more on disinformation than anyone had done. Obama broke through in his own way at his time. But AOC is right, we have to get better at social media. A lot of our House and Senate campaigns were not as sophisticated, and we got to get better at social media, and the right is very good at it.
Well, that is a really important lesson to leave this conversation with. Do you think there's time to do that in Georgia?
I think there's time to get better in Georgia. And I think that our secret sauce in Georgia, and it's why the presidency was won there to begin with, is Stacey Abrams. There's no one like her. And Lauren Groh and the whole Fair Vote organization, and all of the people involved with them. But they are brilliant. They are dedicated. They never take their eyes off the prize. And I think everyone acknowledges that if we win Georgia, when we won Georgia, it was because of Stacey Abrams and a lot of other people. And if we win Georgia, it'll be because of Stacey Abrams and a lot of other people.
Yeah, a lot of trailblazing, powerful women who are really
Yeah,
leading the direction of this country, which is such great news.
agreed.
Well, thank you so much, Celinda.
Thanks for having me.
Really, really appreciate your time and all of your amazing work here. And we look forward to staying in touch and continuing to work towards creating a stronger party moving forward.
Absolutely. And a party led by women.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for all you do.